We are going live with Money Moves, another exciting edition of Money Moves with John C. and Wendy Lee.
What's up?
There you
Is
go.
that like the cue for me to say?
That was the cue. That was the cue. It's like, woo, what's up? I am excited about what we're talking about. Of course, numbers came out, 9.1% inflation. That's the actual government number. I'm honestly thinking it's about 15, 16%. And anymore, I'm walking into a gas station or going to a gas station with, well, never mind. But anyway, it's Bohica time every time I go to the pump. Let's just put it that way. So for those of you in the military, you know what I'm talking about when I say the word Bohica or the word Bohica. So today we're talking about something else. What are we talking about, Wendy?
Real estate.
Real estate. Should I stay or should I go or should I even get involved in it? So we're going to get started here in just a few minutes. Do me a favor, everybody. Real quick, click that like button. You're going to get some good stuff today, but share it with your friends. Let them know we're getting ready to get started. If you've ever been thinking about talking or doing real estate, we're going to talk about it today. If you are doing real estate, should that be the only thing you're doing? So we're going to get started here in just a few seconds, and we'll start the show. And we're back.
We're here.
We're here. I love it. So real estate. You talked about real estate. I've done real estate. And, you know, people are probably asking, well, what the hell do these two know about real estate? So let me give you a little bit of my background on real estate. So I bought my first house in 97, bought my first rental in 2000, 99, 2000. Had a whole portfolio of them. And I learned, it all started with reading the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I know you've read that too, right, Wendy?
Yep. One of the first personal development books I ever read. Yeah,
exactly. And it changed my whole mind about money. And if you haven't read it yet, shame on you. Pick it up. There's a billion copies everywhere. You can probably get it online, Audible, everywhere. But you need to read the book. And it's a fictional story. It's not his real dad. So don't, you'll hear some haters. Oh, it's not his real dad. It's the point he's trying to make. But it literally changed my life. And got into real estate quite a bit. Actually purchased homes. I bought this. What was that guy's name? Carlton Sheets. He used to have a no money down purchase program, one of those late night infomercials, and a buddy of mine had it. And he said, this doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, let me try it, see if it works, where it was the whole buy a house for $1.
Yeah.
I'll be damned if it didn't work. I bought 3 houses. I mean, these are nice houses. My rule was I would never buy anything that I wouldn't move into with a family right then. Right. So no, I didn't do Section 8 or anything. That's a whole other market. But, and these were nice houses. And 2 of them I bought from an attorney. Who loved the idea. And so I'm like, wow, this is really cool. So I got into it. And then,
wait, you literally bought a house for $1?
Yeah, I bought 3 of them that way. One of them was almost 3,000 square feet, 5-bedroom, right in the nice area in Indianapolis. There were several of them, actually.
Gotcha. So for another day, got to hear that.
That's yeah. So there you go. Maybe we'll do that video too. But his name was Carlton Sheets, and haters are hating, right? That's what haters do. That is the job of a hater, is to hate. So don't be upset when they do it, because they're just doing their job. But the guy knew his stuff, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, got into real estate investing, bought houses for several years, and sold on option, rented them out, did a whole bunch of different strategies. And then my last job before I started Turning Point Group, which was the financial company we talk about, right? I actually worked for a hedge fund, and that's what I did. I would buy 120, 130 single family homes every month in the areas in Dallas and Houston and the surrounding counties. So it was fun. It was a blast. I had an awesome team I worked with, and it was like literally getting my PhD in real estate investing. So I know a couple things, right? And so that's what we're going to talk about today, because I hear a lot of people talking about, oh, real estate this and real estate that, or I don't invest, or I don't put money in the market. I do all real estate. Yeah, maybe not such a good idea. I don't know. What exposure have you had with real estate, Wendy?
Yeah. So, was my first marriage actually was married to a real estate guy in commercial real estate, also like land development and things like that. And then my dad, that's, pretty much how he lives in retirement outside of his, 401k and retirement from the job. He has rental properties, I think 4 different rental properties.
Not 40, 4.
Yeah, 4. And so I've watched him, he buys them in foreclosure and fixes them up a little bit and turns around and rents them out.
Yep.
And so that's been my experience. And then just friends that do it. And I have a big dream of having a lot of real estate one day and doing short-term rentals. And I like being in them. I like renting short-term rentals, but I would like to own some. And so I've tried to learn. I just met with a girlfriend yesterday who does wholesaling and flipping, and I picked her brain for a while, and it's really fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Well, in real estate, in my opinion, it's a great investment. But here's the key. Okay, here's the key, and this is where most people make mistakes. They'll go catch some infomercial like I did or something like that, or they'll have a friend that, hey, they've done some stuff, so they want to get into it, and they go and buy a house, and they end up upside down in it, or it's a bad deal, and you hear a lot of horror stories about tenants and this, that, and the other. So you've got to figure out, first of all, why would I want to invest in real estate? Well, number one, people need a place to live, period. Food, water, shelter, right? Food, water, shelter. That's the first thing. And anything. It's a necessity. It's not necessarily recession proof, but it is a necessity. And the assets, they're not making any more land, right? And housing right now is at, it's crunch time. Now it's letting up a little bit. I don't know the word. But it's getting a little bit better. But you got a lot of migration going on from California, Illinois, things like that. But people are still buying properties in there too. That is a lot of overseas investment and whatnot. But people need a place to live. And the good thing is it's a great time if you've got tenants or rentals or stuff like that, because you're getting top price and things like that. The bad news is if you're trying to get into real estate investing, the traditional route where you're going and buying a place, you're paying top dollar for it right now, right? You mentioned your dad bought properties in foreclosure, and that's what I would do too, from HUD or whatever, the case may be. And the hedge fund I work with, that's what we did. We worked the foreclosure auctions. Well, that's changing a little bit, but guess what? Guess what's around the corner? Okay. You're starting to see foreclosure start to tick up a little bit, and that's going to continue to get bigger and bigger. As things start to go a little more haywire in the economy. And I'm just going to stop right there. But before you buy, you've got to know what your exit strategy is. You talk about your dad's buying and holding. That's a buy and hold, right? Where he's buying a property and he's letting them make the payments. He gets tax benefits out of that as well. And it's over a course of 10, 15, 20 years, maybe even 30 years, depending on, how you're doing it. And you get some cash flow in it. Okay. And we're going to talk about the cons of some of these different strategies too. And then you'd also mentioned wholesaling. You talk a little bit about that?
Yep. Well, from what I know about wholesaling, I actually first heard about it in Rich Dad Poor Dad, right?
Yeah.
Where you can basically put a contract on a house without fronting any money. You just make the contract and then you sell that contract to a buyer, and you have a certain time frame to do that. So and in the process, the contract that you write to the buyer, you up the price. So you make money and you've never put any money into it. So, and the girl I was talking to yesterday said on average, $50,000 for each transaction, which is
if you do it right. And that's the thing. And you want to learn. So, the key is if you're going to start doing that stuff or even real estate, get involved in a local RIA, Real Estate Investment Association. There's a ton of them. I used to, in Indianapolis, I was part of what's called SORIA, Central Indiana Real Estate Investment, Association. And it's one of those things that you're going to meet a lot of people there. Now, again, take everything with a grain of salt, right? But you just get around it and start learning the vernacular, learning the words, learning from other people's, horror stories, right? What did they do and how? So get around that. Don't just read a book and think I'm going to go out and start real estate investing, right? You want to be around people that have been doing it for a while. How do I deal with tenants and all that kind of stuff? But wholesaling, you're acting as basically a bird dog. Maybe you don't have big money to go and invest in real estate, put, 50, 60,000 down on a rental property, something like that. Maybe you just do the legwork, find an opportunity, and you can make $10, $20, $30,000, $50,000 like your friend, depending on how good the opportunity is, and partner up with some people that are actually doing the hard investing, and you build up your nest egg so you can kind of evolve from a wholesaler into an actual investor. So that's one way too. And then, like I mentioned, there's a lot of opportunity out there. Not so much right now because everybody's kind of aware of what's going on in the market. But when people get upside down in the market, and they want to avoid foreclosure, there's something called a pre-foreclosure where you can help them avoid foreclosure. You take over the payments and things like that. So there's a whole opportunity there where you're coming in with minimal money, if any money down. And now there's some integrity issues there. You know, obviously you're working with people, and you want to make sure you abide by the contractual agreements you set up. So you know, do everything above board. But that's the whole thing. You've got to learn about this stuff before you just pull the trigger and start investing.
Yeah.
And you make your money. Write this down, folks. You make your money on the property when you buy it, not when you sell it. Meaning, if you go in at the wrong price, you're upside down and you're not going to get out of it for a long time, right? And I've done that deal, right? When the market collapsed in 08, I purchased a property, and it was kind of like, well, I don't know, but this family needed a place, and they said, this is the house we want to buy. I worked out a deal, and so I carried, you know, they rented it from me for a while and then wanted to buy it, but the market price had dropped. Yes, real estate does go down, folks, especially for you younger viewers out there. And I got out of it unscathed, meaning I didn't have to pay money to get out of it, but you know, I ended up, I think I made $1,000. Now I had cash flow on the rents and stuff like that, the 5 years they rented it from me, but you know, I got out of it still in the black, but you know, it was still sketchy, but that's because I purchased it correctly.
Yeah.
So that's one of the big things. So some of the other things you'd mentioned, the whole short-term rentals, right?
Which is hot right now.
It's super hot.
Yeah.
I guess you can make mistakes in that too, right, Wendy?
Well, yeah. So, well, the thing with short-term rentals, I know a lot of people want to jump in and aren't familiar with the local codes, and you have to make sure. I mean, there are places all over that are banning that are, you know, you can't do short-term rentals. Locals don't typically like it when a short-term rental is near there. In fact, my friend visited from Florida to Chattanooga, and the house they were at, you had to drive by down this like driveway that there were like 5 houses off of it. And there were 2 Airbnbs. And right at the front of the driveway, it says, "We hate Airbnb." Because the other people that lived there hated the fact that there's short-term rentals right by their house. But it's also, I mean, you know, we're looking at, you know, a team trip to Mexico. And one of the guys on our team was saying there's short-term rentals. I started looking at those, and they're everywhere. VRBO, Airbnb, and especially in destination locations. So
well, and going back to what you were talking about, the neighborhood, I mean, that's something, you know, as you look at it, you got, because I was I had a property in Indianapolis, and the neighborhood association, because the rentals were popping up, because the neighborhood was going through a transition, the economy was kind of a little shaky in that area. And so all of a sudden, everybody was just trying to rent their place out. And that impacts property values. So the people that own the homes are like, hey, you're going to, you know, because tenants typically don't take care of their property. Now you can avoid all that if you set up the right tenants and things like that. But most landlords don't do that. And the problem was they came in and said, okay, we're allowing no rentals. And I'm like, wait a minute, you can't do that. And actually they can, you know, with the HOA, you're agreeing to abide by that. But we got attorneys involved, right? Because I purchased property and they were allowed when I was in there. I was grandfathered in. Yeah, so I got grandfathered in. But again, just because it looks like a great rental and maybe the tenant doesn't, or the current owner doesn't want to mention it or whatever, and you're buying it, or you don't even mention that you're going to rent it out, you're just going to buy the house. They think you're buying it, you know, to live in. You buy it, and the next thing you know, I can't even rent it out, or I can't do a VRBO kind of deal, short-term rental, because the neighborhood HOA kind of blocks me out. So again, go ahead. Sorry.
No, finish your thought.
No, I was going to say, you know, just do your due diligence is what I'm saying. So
yeah, another thing that I've started to look into in talking about different ways to invest in real estate is real estate syndication. I don't know a ton about it. I know you know a lot more than I do, but that's something that I am looking into in the future, and we don't have time to go into it now. But
that's kind of an advanced concept. But
yeah. So John, we talked about different ways you can do it, right? So what are the risks involved, and should I make that part of my strategy?
Well, yeah, I mean, I love real estate. I think it should be part of a strategy. I don't think it should be the first step in in an overall wealth strategy. I think there are other low-hanging fruit, and you've got to get your house in order. And if you do it right, and this is what because you know, we work with small business owners, we work with individuals, we work with families, and then we also work with a lot of real estate investors and develop what's called a real estate bank. It's kind of like if you've heard the Infinite Bank or Family Bank. It's similar but different. It's designed for real estate investing, where you actually become your own lender. And you get great returns on your money while it's not being used, and you can use the money, put it back, that kind of thing. So if you're interested in that type of real estate, in the comments below, or reach out to us at Black Swan Money or Wendy Lee Online, and we'll get you set up with a conversation. But I definitely think real estate should be an overall part of it. Some of the cons are, if you don't know what you're doing, you can lose money quick and lose money fast. And if you're doing a long-term hold, where you've got a tenant in there, you've got to realize you're not getting that cash flow, that rent, 12 months out of the year. Okay. You would if they stayed there longer than a year, but typically you've got a month or two in transition. A tenant leaves, a new tenant comes in, you've got to clean the property up. You've got to, and do all the lipstick and rouge on the house, right? You've got to market the property and get somebody back in there. You got to vet the tenants. There are laws and regulations on how you pick tenants. You can't just pick, well, I like you, or you're cool, so I'm going to let you go in when there were 5 other people in front of them. You can't do that. You'll get in trouble. You'll get sued on that. So you've got to have, it's a business. Mm-hmm. So you've got to have all that stuff. Is it scary? No. Is it intimidating? Maybe. Is it simple? Yes. So that's why, again, you want to learn what you're doing, get in those groups we were talking about earlier. But, the other side of that coin is, you look at what just happened over COVID. All these people renting properties and losing jobs and stuff like that. And the powers that be stepped in and said, hey, no worries. You're not going to be evicted. You don't have to, if you can pay your rent, try to pay it, but you're not going to be evicted if you can't pay rent. Mm-hmm. Notice what they didn't do is go to the homeowners of those rental properties and say, hey, you know what? We know you've got tenants in there. You don't have to worry about the mortgage payment to the bank. That didn't happen.
Right.
So a lot of people got way behind on their mortgages and whatnot. And you've got to have cash reserves on that. That's why, starting off as a wholesaler or something like that, dip your toe in the water, right? Yeah. Get a mentor or two and, say, hey, I'd love to work with you or whatever, and have them show you the ropes. And most of them, are approachable and things like that. But the easiest way is to find a group. But yeah, you can lose your butt on it. And especially if you buy the house incorrectly and pay too much for it, which, I used to see that all the time. When I worked at the hedge fund, like I said, we would buy 120, 130 homes every month. We could kind of balance it out. We were looking at a pool of assets, right? Mm-hmm. So I may pay a little over in these 2 or 3, a little more than maybe I should have, but I knew I got a great deal on these other 4 or 5 over here. It balanced out. When you're an individual investor, you don't really have that option. Right. Okay. So you got your money on the one property. If you blow it, you blow it. And, I've talked to some acquaintances that have been burnt in the past, and, you learn from it. That's, again, why it's so critical to know what you're doing, run the numbers, and know your exit strategy on that house before you actually buy it, or that apartment building or commercial. There's no way I'd get into commercial right now, but that's just my personal opinion because everybody's working from home now. So, but that's kind of the it. I think real estate has a place in a portfolio. Yeah. It's not where you start. Mm-hmm. And it's not the end all be all of put all those eggs in that one basket, right? They can complement each other if you do it right. So,
yeah. And I just have to give you a shout out, because when you did our real estate investment or investors webinar a couple of months ago, I was blown away. I had no idea you had such an extensive background. And I think it's cool because that's something that, I really want to do. And it's important. I've learned this in any area of life, but it's important to surround yourself with people that have the experience. And I'd rather learn from your successes and your failures and not make the same failures, right? Not make the same mistakes. So.
Yeah, that's what we do. We teach people, right? So, and it's one of those things. And if you're interested in looking at, okay, I want to build a wealth strategy, not just grow my 401k or my IRA. I want to build a wealth strategy. That's the thing too. Don't put all your eggs in that basket either. You want to diversify, right? Right. And you've got to have an advisor that has experience in all of those areas, or else guess what? They're not going to talk about it and you're not going to get exposed to it. So that's the unique thing that we bring at the Turning Point Group, that whole aspect. So if you're interested in that, let us know. We'll give you a free wealth map and, take a look at what real estate can do for you. But there's a lot of opportunity out there if you do it right. So good deal. I think we'll wrap with that. We're coming up on 19, 20 minutes. So it was a little longer today. Hopefully you held on to your attention. Real high overview, flyby, lots of opportunity. So if you're interested in learning more, reach out to us. Let us know. Do us a favor, though. Show some love. click that little like button down there and subscribe as well. Okay, that's how and comment. We want to hear your comments. That's how Facebook and all these other social media companies, their algorithms work. We get some interaction, they bump us up, and more people get exposure to it. So, Wendy, again, have a great week, and we'll see you next Tuesday, 10 a.m. Central, 11 Eastern, here on Money Moves. Bye-bye.
Bye.